Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18. Meetings of the Berkshire Hills Regional School District School Committee will be conducted both in person and remote through March 31st, 2025. Agenda items listed are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Not all items listed, in fact, be discussed. Items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This meeting is being recorded by CTSB, the school committee recorder, and other members, including the Berkshire Edge, and will be broadcast. Once transcribed and approved, minutes will be made public and posted to our website. So I believe we have one member online, so we'll take a attendance roll call. Bill Vogt.
Present.
Ann Hutchinson. Let's see, dude. Jason.
Here.
Bonnie.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
Bill.
Here.
Diane.
Here.
Lori.
Here.
Rich.
Here.
And present. Minutes, we have in our packet minutes from January 25th, 2024, February 8th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Bill.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Bonnie.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Lori.
Aye.
Rich. And I, it's unanimous. So a public hearing in accordance with MGL Chapter 71, Section 30N, school district will open a public hearing on its proposed FY25 budget. So do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Bill.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Bonnie.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Corey.
Aye.
Rich. And I. Peter?
Okay, so what I'd like to do is just go over a few things. The budget process, I think, is always thorough and quite deliberate, but different people join at different points in it. So I sort of want to summarize where we're at, maybe anticipate a few questions, and then hand it over to the school committee to ask questions, and then.
That was the public hearing.
Right, yes, and then the public. Well, one of the things that we did commit to, which I want to flag for next year, is Sharon and I are gonna quite intentionally run a couple of budget 101 sessions, both for the community in general, parents and families, but also for school staff. Our budget process, not everybody gets this, really starts in September and then culminates sometime around now, ultimately with a vote of the school committee that then leads to votes at the 3 town meetings. But in the best of times financially, people aren't weighing in a lot on the budget, and in more challenging times, people like to weigh in. So we thought it would make sense, and I had a really good conversation the other day with a number of people from the Muddy Brook PTA about this, that we're gonna set aside a few meetings in the fall, very early in the process, to then also help more meetings happen at the school level going forward. But what I want to do tonight is just clarify a few things. The budget's been around. We've talked about it a lot. There are copies of it online. There are copies of it in the libraries. And I think the thing that people have wondered most about, and I've tried to clarify it, but not everybody reads everything I send out. So I want to verbally do that. At a previous meeting, I proposed some reductions, and some of those, in my mind, I continue to propose. But one of them in particular, I am recommending we fund from a grant, which is the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging position. I got really clear feedback both from the committee and from other people that at this moment in time, that's essential. So I want to flag that in my proposal that is reinstated and funded through a grant. The other positions are largely building-based. We're continue to recommend the reduction of one position at the elementary school in the early grades, and that's based on our analysis of potential class sizes. And as I talked about with some of the folks from Muddy Brook, there is a little flexibility there in who comes in and who comes out. But we also have very accurate data around what class size is. We anticipate that the next year's kindergarten will be between 37 and 45 students. So even at the high end of 45, we can run that kindergarten with 3 sections of 15. And it's not clear that we're even going to get to the high end of the 45. And some of the other ones, and sometimes people ask me for the very specific data on this. There are other grades. The current 4th grade has 72. Next year's 4th grade, we're projecting 65. This year's 2nd grade, next year's 3rd grade, 67. Next year's 2nd grade, 57. So of all the places to go from 4 to 3 sections, we think next year's makes the most sense in kindergarten. The position at Du Bois is currently a special education position that the person in that role actually holds 2 licenses, and we hope to reassign that position to one of the other buildings. So it's more a reassignment than a reduction, though it is a reduction in that building. And then we're recommending 2.5 positions at the high school. One is a social studies position, and we've talked some about that. Somebody in that role resigned now. We're filling it with a temporary one, and we recommend not replacing that as we go into next year. There's one other position at the high school, and then a half-time math position that's currently filled by a formerly retired teacher. And the rationale there is around an enrollment analysis. And people could push back and say, the total numbers are going down, but the needs of students are increasing. So does a reduction really make sense? And in some cases, I acknowledge that the needs of students are shifting, but we also hired other roles to support some of those needs. Most notably, we have 2 ESL teachers in the high school now, and until recently we didn't. The other thing, and this is confusing, the reduction of the typical teacher teaches 5 classes at the high school, and the reduction of the social studies position doesn't translate into the reduction of 5 social studies classes, because multiple people hold multiple licenses. So we think it's actually 3 classes across the social studies department, or that equivalent. So that's sort of the high level overview of where we are. We're in one of those budget cycles that's tougher. We have fixed costs that continue to go up. We have contractual obligations that go up, utilities and insurance, and we're trying to balance our budget with our own needs, looking forward as well, and then with the needs of our 3 member towns. One other thing, because there's always the possibility that this can happen, there's a occasional tendency or desire to fix things at the last minute or at the 11th hour in this process. And I'm open to any feedback and suggestions, but I also encourage us to be really deliberate and careful about that. you and the finance subcommittee charged me and the administrators with doing some really detailed, thoughtful work on this, and we don't always get it right. Like the DEI position's a clear one where we didn't get it right. But in getting to this point, we weighed a whole lot of different possibilities. And there's the possibility that any number of people in this room might agree or disagree with one particular recommendation. In the past, or the other side of this has been a long time ago, the school committee would themselves make recommendations for reductions. And then over time, we got to a point where we got to a number, like I'd like to see you work to reduce the budget by $200,000. And then you charged us with coming back to you with presenting a range of possibilities to do that. And I think that kind of process can be a little better and a little more thoughtful, because in many cases, things are very much interconnected, right? And somebody might recommend, let's put back this position, but if putting back that position is another $80,000, we might actually come back to you with a better recommendation than putting back a particular position. So that's really all I have to say. I'm happy to hear other people's comments, respond to questions. And
So
see where we land.
we'll start with a public hearing, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll go off the agenda, and then we will have the discussion and potential vote on the budget before we move to the rest of the meeting. So whether you're online or in the room, just raise your hand if you want to speak. And you have up to 3 minutes to speak. And if you're in the room, to speak loudly so that microphones can pick you up. So just stand up and say your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Joanne Lenski, Parks and Rec Commissioner here in Stockbridge. I'm also the parent of a 7-year-old boy in first grade at Muddy Brook. I'm here to speak on behalf of John Fortner, who's the kindergarten teacher whose position is being considered for elimination. I just want to say, well, first as a mother, my son had John Fortner last year in his kindergarten year. He had some behavioral issues tied to what we now know is attention deficit disorder. My son now has an approved 504 plan. Last year in kindergarten, he had some issues, and John Portner was an excellent teacher and is an excellent teacher. He handled my son's issues very well. He took a personal interest in my son, and he was able to not only address the issues in a way that my son could understand, but he also thrived in his classroom. And it pains me to think that he would not be part of our school next year. I do understand that he moved his whole life here from Colorado to be a part of our school system. And I have to say that he's one of the best teachers I've ever met. And I think it would be a great loss to have him not in our school system. If he were to move to a different school system, it would be at a great loss to Muddy Brook. And I understand that budgets can be difficult to maintain and to balance. But if there's any other available money, grant money or positions that he could be moved to, I think it would be a great benefit to our school district to keep him in the system. And also I will speak on behalf of, I'm a member of a group, an advocacy group called Educators for Excellence. They're Boston based. It's a statewide group that is advocating for 2 bills. One bill is called Enact So All Students Can Thrive. That's Bill S340 and H583. These bills are proposing or have proposed other ways in which school districts who are struggling with budget constraints, other factors to look at in terms of judging, instead of taking seniority for teachers, last in, first out, It does offer other solutions to, for people like you who are in positions of authority making these decisions. Other factors to look at in terms of quality of education for our children. I strongly suggest that you guys take a look at these bills and just use them as consideration for balancing the budget and looking at other ways to try to keep great educators like John Portner in our school system. As a taxpayer, it would be very upsetting to me to see somebody like him be eliminated, especially knowing that he has taken a personal interest in my son and making my son's education, good for him. Because he has struggled last year and this year. Even this year, he doesn't have my son in his classroom. He took the personal. He personally made it possible for my son to attend the after-school program because he knew that my son, who has a lot of energy in the classroom, in school, to attend the after-school program, which has been very beneficial to him. And I've seen such a huge improvement in his behavior and even in his academic capabilities this year in first grade because of the personal interest that John Portner has taken in caring for my son's education. And so, and also, as another elected official in the town of Stockbridge, I think it would be in our best interest as a town and a school district to keep John Portner in our school system in any way possible. So,
Thank you very much. Okay, who else would like to speak? Online or in the room?
One in the back there.
Stand right up, go ahead, just state your name and address.
Sorry, I'm a little bit not no voice. My name is Lindsay Tulin. I'm in Great Barrington. I am a early learning specialist for the Parent Child Plus program at CHP. I'm also a Daisy troop leader, and I'm the Muddy Grove PTA president. We have learned about this I have learned personally about the budget in the 11th hour. We've had many talks between Pierre Dillon and I understand the constraints that we have and how the budget has exceeded and has gone up about $1 million and some of the COVID funding is being cut. But in talks in the different groups that I'm in and the community members, there is an outcry. And I feel like I know that we've talked back and forth, but I want to let you know that there are community members, there are younger early education, there are parents that are very concerned about taking away a kindergarten level position. So I just wanted to kind of make it known. I understand on paper what it looks like, but then on the big picture of what the community has been talking to with me, I just wanted to bring it kind of to your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yep, stand right up.
Hi, Kelsey, she, her pronouns. I'm a special education teacher at Monument Mountain. I'm the adult advisor for the GSA and SOCA, which is the Students of Color Association. Today, they wanted to come to speak themselves, but they are very tired and very frustrated. So we co-wrote something today that they asked me to read. The students of SOCA, many of whom are members of the SOB DEI subcommittee, are frustrated and tired at having to bear the brunt of ignorance, disrespect, and racism in our school district. They feel adults are relying on them to not only teach their peers and teachers about racial equity and inclusion, but are tasked with quietly putting up with the daily micro and macroaggressions. The district pays lip service to addressing issues of inequity and racism, but has done little to change their everyday experiences. These are children trying to teach adults about topics and issues that undermine many firmly held beliefs and worldviews. It is difficult to examine ourselves, but it is not up to our students to shed light on our shortcomings. Their suggestions are spending money on PDs, trainings on implicit bias, mandatory PDs about racism, and share how it feels to walk through white spaces as a historically marginalized person, and ensure proper funding and support for students and staff of historically marginalized groups. And that means keeping educators of color. We need to be proactive in how we address these issues They discussed how the district didn't jump to do trainings and PDs around LGBTQIA+ issues until a major incident occurred. We cannot wait for that level of harm to take action. They ask that I leave you with this: we cannot build a strong house with a faulty foundation.
Anyone else? Anyone online? I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing. Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. It's a roll call vote. Bill? Vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason?
Aye.
Bonnie? Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Diane?
yes,
Cory?
Aye.
And I. So now we get to ask questions and decide whether we're gonna vote tonight or have another meeting next Thursday to finish off the budget. I have my preference. I think we've talked a lot about it, but so questions or comments about the budget? So I'll start a little bit. It's always difficult to reduce positions. It's not the first time we've done it. And one of the things I hear from people, the other side of it is we need to right size. Our student population is down, and it's never easy to lose teachers of quality or teachers who've been with us for a little while, but it's unfortunately necessary, whether it's a town or whether it's a school district, as you, in this case, students, as you lose students, which everyone in the county is, it's important for us to right size. You can't have the same number of teachers when students are down. And I think our cuts, although affect a few people, are as minimal as can be. And I think our increase in the budget is reasonable, but we can't have more of an increase. All the towns around us are having problems because revenue is down in all three towns. The state revenue is down, and these look like these next couple of years are gonna be difficult. And I don't think we can put our head in the sand and say, oh no, we need to continue to fund at the same rate, no matter what size we are. So I'm not in disagreement with this budget at all. I think it's necessary.
I guess my one
I'd
comment
like
would be,
Well, Rich was talking.
oh, no, go ahead. I
Okay.
didn't,
It's okay. Go
no,
ahead.
no, go ahead, no, you go
Oh, no.
ahead, and then I'll talk after.
I was just gonna comment on the fact this is, I think, my third time in a budget reduction cycle. And well, it's not easy, the way this is shaken out, I'm the most comfortable with, in terms of the reductions that I've had to vote for over the years. I very much appreciate, the speaker earlier who addressed the first in, last out system, which is what we're contractually bound to. There's no way getting around that. That's what we signed a contract, so that's the way we're gonna do it. There are good reasons to do it that way. I am very interested in the legislation that was discussed as well, but you know, this is, we have to go, but my view, my approach to cuts is you have to go by the numbers. You can't get involved in personalities. It does, you know, we don't do right by our community if we do that. We have to look at the actual numbers.
Thanks, Rich. Diane, go right ahead.
I think at this point, the way every year I feel a bit frustrated when we get to this point, because I think that there is never an understanding, at least by me, about how someone who's being cut is actually affecting students and the community. Because on the one side, it's numbers, and on the other side, it's actually affecting somebody's life. And in a lot of cases, it's a great teacher, and I'm always very upset when we have to touch somebody who is really good. And I wonder if there's a way to avoid this in the future, or even now. Is there a better way to do this?
So Diane, I'll just answer my opinion, only my opinion. When your budget is over 75% staff, and and more, it's very, very difficult. Now, one is, and I should apologize, usually during a public hearing and public speak, we don't mention names because of contractual reasons, because of state law. And I think tonight was a special case. But one of the things, and I'm not saying in this case, we assume who is going to be let go and who isn't, but there's bumping rights here, and there's other things that are going on, who's certified in what. So that's never talked about because it's positions that we're eliminating. Obviously there are people, but it's not individuals that we're going to talk about necessarily. And it's not about, unfortunately, until state law changes, it's not about eliminating the weakest out of a department. It's eliminating through seniority or through some other method if bumping rights aren't there. So it is difficult, and if there's a better way, I'd love to see it come into effect.
I'm sorry for breaking the protocol here, but.
That's okay, you're fine. I said,
There is a better way, and I really encourage you if I.
okay, public comment is over, so that's,
I understand. If you both, if you.
well, you
all
don't
just finish
understand
this
because you're still
bills
speaking.
Until next Thursday, just put a pause on.
So
it.
we do a general public comment at the end of the meeting too, so if you wanna.
Yeah, thank you. Other school committee members? Jason, go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks again to the finance committee. You meet the most out of any of the subcommittees and put the most time in, so I really appreciate it. And I know you have a hard job, weighing the needs of the students versus the ability of the taxpayers to pay. So thank you very much for that. Also, unfortunately, this down budget cycle, thanks to Peter, all the administration for doing the best you can. I know it's the last thing your educators, you all wanna, at the minimum, keep, and if not build, because you see all the necessities that the kids today need. I have a real problem with this budget, specifically with the loss of a social studies teacher at the high school. I understand that the numbers are down significantly, or down in the high school, but and if we didn't switch to this de-leveling program that we did a couple years ago, I'd probably have a lot less problem with it. But the complete key to success and all the research I've done is class size. There's some subjects, specifically biology, which doesn't seem to be a problem, and great for them, they're doing great, but I don't think comparing bio to English or to social studies is fair. I think it's apples to orangutans, and I think the class size for English and social studies is a lot bigger factor, especially when you consider all the different needs we have. It's not just people who are progressing, people who are above. We have English language learners, we have English language learners who have zero education. All these people are in these type of classrooms, and it's really difficult. And I know we have an average of 16, but there are even some classes with 24 kids in it. And the fact that in social studies, we had two really good teachers who, the only teacher who spoke advocating when we started this leveling up program was the social studies teacher. Both of them lasted 1 year, another year, couldn't even finish the second year. So we have a problem in that department with these grades. And I don't think reducing this is gonna help. I think we need, if anything, to add teachers. If we're really serious about this leveling up, we need to do it right. We can't be keeping class sizes the way they are when, in my opinion, optimistic opinion, it's a wait and see. I'm concerned about the kids, I'm concerned about what they're learning in these classes, how they're learning. And to me, it's not the way to go about it, and cutting one of the teacher in one of these four core subject areas. So I'm not gonna vote for this budget.
Thanks, Jason. Who else? Corey?
I'll build on Jason and just turn it around a little bit and just say that we've heard from teachers who have said that they're struggling with this. We've heard from students who say that they're not getting what they need. And maybe it doesn't have to be with another teacher, but I've yet to hear what's being done to adequately and appropriately address those issues that have been ongoing.
No, I'm happy to respond to parts of it. We've tried with some level of success to make a deep commitment to professional development, to supporting people in doing this. And the other day we had an admin retreat or Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning. And then we have a big meeting planned with the sort of the ad hoc professional development committee to share our thinking around this summer's professional development. And we're gonna double down on that, particularly at the high school level around supporting teachers in doing some of what supporting all teachers in doing what some of the biology teachers have demonstrated real success with, which is meeting the needs of all students. Christy's also on the call, and I'll click the thing so she can speak. One of the things we did a really detailed analysis of is class size. And while there are some class sizes that are on the larger size of 24, there are also some class sizes that are on the really small side of 5 or 7. And one of the shifts we need to make is to better balance those class sizes and reallocate people and their time so that the kids that would benefit the most from smaller class sizes can, and not the older students, particularly in advanced classes, have sizes of classes of 5 and 7. Christy, do you want to speak a little to that side of it, or could you?
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm not there in person. But I do have some numbers that I just want to share. And I'm going to reiterate something that I said at the last school committee meeting, which is I'm hearing this being discussed as a 1.0 cut to social studies, and that is an inaccurate description of what's going to actually happen on the ground. By not filling a social studies position, I anticipate that we'll be reducing the number of sections in social studies by 2 or 3 at the most, because we do have someone in our science department who holds certification in social studies. So there's actually a reduction happening in science in addition to a partial reduction that's happening in social studies. And this is to right size to the class sizes we have. Currently, our science department has a few places where teachers are in positions where they're team teaching rather than having a section of their own. And I have made the determination that I think it's a better use of our staff to assign a teacher who's currently in our social science department to teach some sections of social studies. I also had mentioned the last time I spoke that what we're doing by doing this is we're returning to the pre-pandemic staffing. Prior to the pandemic, we had 5.5 social studies teachers. And that's actually essentially what I'm putting us back to. And our enrollment numbers pre-pandemic were higher than they are now. So even dropping down to 5.5, I think we're still going to be staffed in accordance with the way I feel like I've heard all of you say to keep the section numbers in our 9th and 10th grade classes low. This year we had 6 9th grade classes. The class size average was 17. One of the classes only has 9 students and the largest class has 21. I would also just provide some context for why there's that variation. This year in particular, in the summer, we had to reassign students to classes because we were unable to fill one of our biology positions. And so we had to change student schedules during the summer manually in order to reduce a section of biology. And the impact that had was to create the disparity of having a section in social studies that was 9, while we have another one that's 21. Our goal is always to try to keep them as balanced as possible. In 10th grade this year, we had 7 sections and our class size average was 16. The smallest was 10, and we did have 1 section that actually has 24. In our upper level classes, we have 11 different elective offerings that are semester offerings, in addition to the full year courses of modern European history and AP US history. So that's 13 different offerings that we offer to social studies for social studies at the high school. Those sections we had this year in our elective program, 4 of them had a class size under 10. And I would propose that we could collapse, for example, a psychology class that has only 6 students into a number of psychology 1 classes. So I do not think that this reduction is actually going to impact class sizes. And I just want to be really careful of how we're framing it so that we understand that it's not a full 1.0 hit to the social studies department.
Thank you, Christy. Who else from the school committee?
I'd like to say a couple of comments. And my context is, having been a former social studies teacher in the department that's being affected. So I'll put that right out there. And this has been a very difficult position for me personally, because I've had to go through this in my own career at Monument earlier. And it's not a happy situation. I'm very concerned about the effect on the elective program. What Christy says is accurate, but still a former chairman of the social studies department said something at a meeting that I never forgot in my 40 years of teaching. That is, once you cut a position, it never comes back. And so I will see that in this budget. But I'm also a member of the school committee. And one of my responsibilities is to be responsive to the community at large. Before I ran for this, I talked to a former member of the school committee who was from Stockbridge, and I sat down with him and asked him about being on this committee, and he said, well, it's like a triangle stool with 3 legs. You're responsible for the education of the students, that's the first leg. You're responsible for the staff, that's the second, and that includes administration and the entire school district. And then you are responsible also to the community. And so I'm on the finance committee, subcommittee, and I entered it with 2 goals in mind. One, I want to be responsive to my community of Great Barrington. I'm very concerned about the building project. And so I stated, I believe at either the first or second subcommittee hearing, that I would like to see a lower Great Barrington assessment. The original assessment was something around 6.4, I believe. I was happy to see that the assessment was lowered by this budget to below 4. And to me, that was progress being made toward a long distance goal, which is the building project. I'm really on this committee, even though I know I won by 1 vote, but I said in regards to that I see the building project is very important. And I was at the school Monday at Monument, and I talked to some people, and I started to think, okay, where can we do the least damage to the students? And obviously, a cut in the classroom is damage to students. So I looked today, and I was on the phone for a good hour and a half. I looked at a position that I thought originally could have been looked at by the administration more closely, and that's this 504 testing coordinator, which is in the high school. I did find some things that originally I said, well, there's a position where we can cut. We can cut that, we can save the social studies position, because this person isn't as directly attached to the classroom as is a teacher. And as one person who I talked to said, you're in a lose-lose situation. If you cut the 504 testing coordinator, you're dealing with really a lot of work that's going to have to be done by somebody else because of and I wasn't aware of this, and Peter I know is, of the legalities of 504. There are tremendous legalities involved with that position. The position includes SAT, MCAS, which to me could be thrown out. the SAT, obviously. And then I talked with a person who used to have the SATs. And she spent summers, she said to me, summers preparing for college boards. The amount of work that is required to have students be able to take these, which I think are stupid standardized tests. That's something else. Everybody knows where I'm on that. Is a tremendous amount of work. And the person that I talked to today that really did help me looked at, talked to me on the phone and just said, Bill, you're in a lose-lose situation. You're not gonna win either way. Yes, we need the teachers, but look at the work that if that position was eliminated, would have to be shifted. And it would have to be shifted to teachers, but also to the vice principal, who prior to this position, the former assistant principal, Scott, told me he spent 60 to 80 hours alone on MCAS in 1 year, 60 to 80 hours. And that didn't include hunting down kids who come in new to the school building and have to be hunted or down and told they have to take this test. So that's 60 to 80 hours that this 504 testing coordinator person has taken up. So I've done some thinking. I talked to Jason at length on Tuesday night, and he and I'm in agreement with what he feels and has said, but I have to look at the big picture. And to me, the big picture is that we need 3 towns together. We need a new building or not a new building, a building project that looks at 3 options. And it is my desire that that be successfully passed. And so therefore, I look at this and I hope that Christie is right, that this is not really a full position cut. And so I will have faith in that projection. But I'll be the first to see if enrollment goes up, which is another thing we're going to talk about later, is instead of talking about declining enrollment, I wish we'd talk about increasing enrollment. And what can we do to increase enrollment and stop this drain? And how do we do that? And what is available to us in regards to that? Instead of just looking at the negative and say, well, we have to do this because of declining enrollment. Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but that's where
You're making 100%.
Yeah, you did, Bill, you always do.
That's where I'm.
Rich disagrees with me, but that's okay.
No, I don't.
Who else would like to speak from the school committee?
Peter, can I respond to Bill? This is Christie.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
So I just would like to frame, Bill, I appreciate that you did the digging into the 504 test coordinator position. That position in my proposal and in the proposed budget is actually being impacted because it's being consolidated with the reading and writing interventionist position. So there's currently 2 positions that are getting consolidated into one. And that is one of those 2 that's getting condensed. So I just want you to be aware that that is something that I looked at as I was asked to put together the proposal that's in front of you.
And then that, we'll kind of following up on that and what Jason knows is, if this was just a cut to the social studies department, I would have the same position Jason has. But I've heard Christie's explanation before, obviously through the finance committee process and have confidence in it. But also is, maybe the longer I've been at this, the less reticent I am to get into the micromanaging of the individual positions. But by a plain view, we are overstaffed at the high school right now. And I trust the administration to deal with that, however they're gonna deal with it. Setting aside what personal opinions I may have about individual positions, priority of departments and things like that. If I was a principal, I may be doing things differently, but I'm not the principal, so. But it was clear to me that we need to right size the staff by this very minor amount in high school, given the demographics.
Who else would like to speak?
I was just gonna say, I keep reminding myself, I think the path that Bill went down is a useful one, because I think assuming that we all trust that the committee arrived at the budget at a good place to kind of minimize the impact to the schools and get to a place where you're also minimizing the tax impact on the towns. It's not really about saving positions. It's about if we're keeping this one, then what else is going? And that's what, and then you just kind of keep going around in a circle, because then you say, all right, well, we'll put this one back in, and then we're gonna get rid of this one, and then there are 10 reasons why we shouldn't get rid of this one, and then so, you know, kudos to the administration, because this is not an easy project, and I am certainly not involved at a level of granularity where I would be able to offer an opinion. But I also still think it's important to read kind of between the lines and hear things about potentially being at risk of losing a valued educator and what that means, and are there things we can do? Or listening to the fact that teachers are saying they are stressed and exhausted and not able to handle their current workload, and dig into that. And so, you know, just to kind of, that's kind of what's rolling around in my own head.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Well, let's-
I have a question
Go
for
ahead.
Christy.
Yes.
With this cut, can you speak to exactly which classes or electives or anything would be changed when you say it's covered by somebody else? Can you make it a little clearer? I'm not exactly understanding what's going in the cut as far as which classes and things like that.
Thank you for the question. And I don't know how specific I can be, because until we actually have students register and then make determinations about the numbers of sections of each course we're offering based on the enrollment numbers, it's hard to know exactly. When I spoke to the teacher who's currently in our science department that is certified, that teacher's willing to pick up some sections in social studies and is actually excited to do so. I don't know if that teacher would be teaching a 9th or 10th grade US History 1 or 2, or if we would be looking to assign that teacher to electives. And that's going to have to be part of a conversation with the entire social studies department and that teacher to negotiate through that together. I hope I answered the question as well as I could.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
For purpose of discussion, I will move to approve a fiscal year 25 gross operating budget of $35,039,758, which results in a net operating budget of $33,014,758 after use of school choice and tuition funds, with a total net operating assessment to the member towns of $28,027,490.
Do I have a second? Second. So I have a motion and a second. Just for everyone's understanding, there'll be two motions, one on the operating, one on the capital. We'll take each one individually. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, I will call a roll call vote. Bill vote? Aye. Jason?
Is this for both budgets or?
Just operating.
Just operating.
Operation?
Your
Yeah.
issues.
No.
Bonnie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Corey?
Aye.
Rich?
Yes,
And yes, the operating budget passes. Do I have another motion?
I move to approve the fiscal year 2025 capital budget of $535,750 with a total net capital assessment to the member towns of $533,750. I further move that $500,000 to be designated for and deposited into the stabilization fund.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Discussion.
that move to the stabilization fund, Sharon, that in my notes from the previous finance committee meeting, that is intended to be to lower future assessments on the building project?
Well, the impact is to be used as necessary for the 3 buildings.
So that certainly is one of the uses that it can be put
Exactly.
to.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Roll call vote. Bill? Aye. Jason?
Aye.
Bonnie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Corey?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And I, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on with the superintendent's report.
Okay, so typically we start our meeting with students, and we got all this budget stuff, so sorry, I should have warned you. But thanks for sitting through it. So let's start with you all in the roses and hearts.
You guys wanna go first? Sure.
Yeah, it's okay. So, the 8th grade, all the crews had to come up with a club for Fridays. So every Friday you went to your club that you chose to be in. So, when I filled out a form, I wanted to have a BIPOC club because I thought that we wanted to focus on diverse in our community. So, we are trying to do a raffle for a trip to New York City, which we are deciding if it's gonna be a day trip or an overnight trip. And if it is an overnight trip, I will come back and propose it again. So we are going to do a calendar raffle. Okay, and so we are very excited to be looking forward to that. And since we are very excited for our trip, we are not only having meetings now during Friday crew, we want to expand into doing it during Mondays so then we can get more done and talk more about what we really feel like should be happening in our community. And in student council, we are doing teacher appreciation for St. Patrick's Day. So we made these gift bags for the all the staff members with like chocolates and saying that we appreciate them.
Great.
Plastic
Wow.
ducks.
Yeah, plastic ducks.
And sorry. We're gonna do that. So the 5th and 6th grade are going to be having, we think, a spring dance with kind of a springish theme with also a couple other things that are currently buzzed out, poofing out of my brain somehow, even though I knew them a few minutes ago, along with just like having some fun at the 5th and 6th grade dance. In 7th and 8th grade, student council members would be doing like the snack table and such, so the 5th and 6th grade student council members could have fun.
Nice.
And the mentor program that Mr. Sack has started, the 7th and 8th grade mentors are trying to meet with their mentees weekly during Fridays. Friday crew, and it's going very well. I know that a bunch of the mentors are always meeting with their mentees in the lower grades whenever they can in the morning during morning crew, and we've had a lot of good feedback from the 5th and 6th grade.
Also, the 5th and 6th grade are starting a new club called the Popcorn Club, which is happening in the library, and apparently they are voting bi-weekly on movies and then spending the next week watching them and then discussing them with the rest of their club. It sounds really fun, and I'm kind of jealous that I can't be in it. Also, the musical has 1 month before it performs for the middle school musical. We're doing Shrek the Musical, and everybody who's in it is getting really excited. We're down to we're performing for each other and doing all our songs. This Monday, actually, we ran through every single song in the musical and just performed them for each other. And everybody's having a lot of fun. And we have the movie night soon. I'm currently forgetting the date, but it's in a couple weeks or so where we all gather together after rehearsal and we watch the movie we're performing. And it's just a lot of fun and everybody's excited. And we actually, the musical does a raffle for practicing where you email the directors a certain amount of times
And then you get entered into a raffle for a $20 Amazon gift card. Everyone seems to love it. And then the 7th grade has a field trip tomorrow to visit Shakespeare and Company and watch A Midsummer's Night Dream. And then we are performing it in a little while, like 1 or 2 months, I'm not remembering the exact date, at the actual Shakespeare and Company place after school. So we're going on a field trip tomorrow to watch that, and everyone seems to be excited.
Okay, so, I'm pretty sure we all know on Monday, my ELA teacher is coming back. And I am very happy that she's coming back. I think that, she has done a great job at teaching us at the beginning of the year when we actually had her. 8th grade has a lot of mixed emotions where, students, are sad that she's coming back because they formed a great bond with our, substitute teacher, which was great. And he did a great job, filling in for Miss Gathers, which was we are very thankful for him. And a lot of students are very happy that she's coming back because they actually miss her. Oh yeah, and she also runs GSA, so
the GSA is very excited to have her back. And we were actually, I think the GSA was hoping that, because she's in and out of school this week and ready, they were talking about maybe having Mr. Wheat tell her that if she wants to stop by her own club, which seems perfectly normal on Friday when it happens, she's totally welcome, and he said he'd pass that message along.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. But Mr. Weed, do you have anything to add from the middle school?
I don't feel like there's much left to say. I'm just gonna come up so I'm sure I can be heard by the owls.
Yeah.
And I have a snazzy visual aid this evening. So as the student rep said, there's actually quite a bit going on. Some other things that I want to mention is in addition to the student work on the BIPOC club, we've thanks to the work of some parents and Dr. Dillon and I, we've been able to partner with Multicultural Bridge, who's helping us with the kind of support the work of the 7th and 8th grade group, but we haven't historically this year had a 5th and 6th grade BIPOC club. We're just gonna work with the 7th and 8th grade group to expand what they're doing, but also help us hold space for a 5th and 6th grade BIPOC club, and we're very excited about that. We've also, through some partnership with that same group of parents, connected with a group called Translate Gender out of the Valley, who has been meeting with our 7th and 8th grade GSA. And Railroad Street has actually started an internship program. So we're working with a high school student as well as Translate Gender to start another thing we've never had before, which is a 5th and 6th grade GSA. And I'm super excited about that as well. We have had some visiting artists. We had a poet and activist, Rajni Edens, just before break, meet with our 8th grade to do a poetry workshop, which culminated in a reading at the end of the day where 8th graders sat around and read poetry to each other for a solid half an hour. We were presented, awesome. So that, and it was very well received, and I think a special treat for our 8th grade ELA classes. And now we have Shakespeare and Company going on in 7th grade, which is super exciting. And I want to, I am also very excited that Ms. Galvez Shapiro is back in the building and will be back in the classroom on Monday. Feels like great news. Faculty has spent yesterday during our faculty meeting digesting the investigation report that the school committee authorized. Teachers had taken some time to read it, and we sat and digested, and they passed back questions, comments, and recommendations to me, which I'll be reviewing with Peter after my instructional leadership team and I review them on Tuesday. But I want to close with this snazzy thing, which comes from the Massachusetts Senate, which came to us in the mail. This is an official citation in recognition of the Berkshire Hills School District and its families for naming the school after scholar Dr. William Edward Burghardt Du Bois in 2020. the state sent us this official citation, celebrating the work, and obviously thanking the school committee, who is the actual group that did the naming. So, we're going to, frame this because it's not every day you get a citation from the state senate. This will be up in our front office, as soon as we can put it in a frame that kind of goes with the motif that we have there right now. BIPOC stands for, you wanna run it down, please?
Yeah, it stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color, and it's not single just to those people, because it's really open to everyone, so since it's right now only an 8th grade club, we're expanding to 7th grade, and I have to talk to my club if they really wanna do that, but we're really hoping to expand. Thank you.
Cool, great. Can you tell us about what's going on at the high school? And
Yeah,
Katie,
of
we didn't
course.
forget you, we're coming back to you at the end.
Well, ours is not quite as exciting. Things have been slow coming back from February break. We have a listening lunch tomorrow featuring Edith's Ensemble, which is kind of a collection of our more advanced players. So I think that's a great opportunity for community bonding. We also have a cabaret next Wednesday, I believe, which is, yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's gonna be a cabaret next Wednesday, which kind of features multiple musical clubs, such as like the jazz band, again, Edith's Ensemble and whatnot. We have people working on the musical still, which is very exciting. We're all very excited about that. Yes, things have been pretty slow. The environmental subcommittee of SOB is actually, I think I've mentioned this during a previous meeting, but we're working on getting a first store up in Monument where we're gonna be accepting donations pretty soon, so we're very excited for that. And that's pretty much it.
One other thing I'll add in, the boys basketball team.
Right, yes.
Is in the state tournament, and the first game of that, or their first game is Friday, and that's all over social media, and you can click to buy your tickets online. You can't really get tickets at the door.
Where is it?
It's at the high school. Yeah, so it's somebody invites at 6 or 6:30 on Friday. And, yeah, so, yeah, come, it'll probably sell out, and it should be a lot of fun.
And you should also mention that the girls relay team in swimming had their best performance ever in the history of the team. And we had a Monument girl who finished 6th in both relays, which is the highest that any swimmer has finished.
Yeah,
from what
I think we have
understand.
lots of reason to celebrate our sports teams this year.
Can I just ask, what is the musical?
The musical, I'm not sure.
I do. I can jump in. Our musical is earlier this year. So our musical is gearing up for their performances March 21st through the 24th. It's a couple weeks earlier than it normally is at the high school. And I think there's some advantage to that so that there's less overlap with our spring sports, which actually aren't too far off. And I just wanted to also share, next Tuesday, we're looking forward to bringing back the Music in the Schools celebration. Our high school ensembles will be performing for the elementary school kiddos and the middle school students. They'll be joining us up in the auditorium for performances on Tuesday, March 5th in the morning. And then I just want to highlight that our guidance team has been working hard, and they have already started conversations with students for registering for courses next year, which means for the first time in my principalship, we're actually on schedule. Yay.
All right, thank you. Katie, some things going on at Muddy Brook?
So, basically, this was our first, week with, our librarian position filled, which has been wonderful. Also on the literacy vein, we have a lot of events coming up for, Read Across America Week, which is actually the week Friday before, and then the rest is really the week that people are celebrating. But tomorrow we're opening with, Berkshire Theater Group.
and Mary Pope Osborne coming to that performance and talking to the kids before the play, so that should be interesting. We're looking forward to getting feedback from our staff on what materials are being used for literacy and which ones that we're looking into. As part of the literacy grant, we're looking at the best reviewed programs and hoping to do some visiting and checking in with close neighbors, whether they're in the county or not. We know Gateway also is using one of the materials. So it's basically literacy-based updates for you.
Great, thank you very much. So the next one, to give you a little context on it, is a proposed vote to use FFA funds. So FFA is the Future Farmers of America, and we have a designated account with some funds in it to build a new greenhouse storage facility. You might have noticed down by the practice field off of Route 7 in front of the high school, there are 2 temporary containers. That storage building is collapsing, so we're gonna take it down and replace it. And Steve did a really good job in both negotiating and designing it, so we got a great deal on it, and we'd like to use those funds, which are restricted to things in support of that program, to cover the cost of it.
Sure, what's the balance of that? You have it.
Do you want me to do a motion and we get in discussion?
Yeah, we can. You look well, you make the motion.
I move to allocate up to $59,000 from the FFA revolving fund to the capital projects fund to pay for the greenhouse storage facility demolition and reconstruction.
Do I have a second? Second. So that fund, we've talked about for as long as I've been on the school committee and what use would be for. We've always talked about rebuilding the greenhouses down there, but clearly every time we've thought about it, there's a building project looming. That would be part of the project. Again, there's a building project looming, so this is excellent use of those funds. So.
556,000.
Yeah, we're not completing it.
So it's like 10%.
It's
Okay.
how much was that?
556,000.
I thought that was something. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Bill. Aye.
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 Sarah.
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Cory.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous.
Okay, so the next thing on my agenda is just a 2-page document that I put together, and its focus areas, and it's dated today. It's also in the packet. These are some, and we don't have to go through it in exhaustive detail, but these are some things that I'm both gonna be working on, and as a school committee, we'll all be working on together over the next few months. A big chunk on communications and trying to do that better, and a lot of work behind the scenes. I'm in conversations about building a site around the building project, and I've selected a vendor to do that and signed a contract, and they're starting to build out that site. So that'll be the first one. I'm also, and I've not yet selected a vendor for reworking our district and school websites, but I'm in conversations around that. And I'm hoping to try to do a changeover for August 1st between the end of the year and the start of the school year. So it's a pretty good time to do it. And maybe Steve always teases me for being optimistic. Maybe I'm too optimistic to get to that, but that's my aspirational goal. I mentioned the budget 101 and trying to, we always at the end of our budget process reflect on it, but I'm putting a stake in the ground to having more community conversations earlier and more school-based conversations as part of the process. We've done a lot of work on policy, particularly connected to the search, and that those draft documents will be shared by March 5th in advance of a policy meeting that's going to happen on March 12th, so people have time to look at things, and we can spend the meeting refining and making suggestions and not reading, right? So if you're a policy wonk or aspiring policy wonk, please join us in that conversation. In the last meeting, we had a number of people who came in person and joined us online, and that was productive. We'll be coming back with some stuff on personal electronics. We're a little behind on that, and we want to talk about that. And we have a relationship with a group called the Great Schools Partnership, and as part of that, they'd offered to review all our policies from a different lens, and possibly do a retreat with our policy subcommittee to try to institutionalize in our written policies some of the practices that we've been working on over the last 5 or 10 years. So that's a sort of really sophisticated way of thinking. And the tension with policy is policy may not always be aligned with where you are at a particular moment, and it's an opportunity to close that gap. And it's also an opportunity to get ahead of some things, like there aren't very good policies anywhere about sort of the role of artificial intelligence in schools, like technology is ahead of policy. So to help us out on some of those things, so I think that should be exciting. Next week, we're doing a couple days of training with the negotiation team and the union's bargaining negotiating team around interest-based bargaining. And there's a federal entity called the Federal Mediation and Conflict Conciliation Service, and our tax dollars pays for them, so they're going to come and train and work with us on that. So that's sort of exciting. And then that'll lead into the negotiations with Unit A, the teachers bargaining group. We'll jump into some strategic and longer term planning that's going to be really driven by our portrait of a graduate work, which Colin and a lot of students and teachers have been working on, and it's not quite done, but it's moving towards closure. So we'll be sharing that, and then a number of other things, and integrating that and some of the work of the Stoke report and the CVTE thing into future work. Lots of updates connected to programs and data and analysis, and we'll look at school and district-wide. In each of the 3 buildings, we've got a few things that we're working on. At the elementary school, people want to know more about recess, and then sort of general tone, and how that connects to faculty and leadership. At the middle school, people have expressed an interest in how we're doing in music and where the music program's going. Music across the district took a little bit of a hit during COVID, and we're coming back, right? So we'll share updates on that. Some work around math. Over the years, more and more middle school students are taking algebra, and we'll talk some more about that and their implications around what happens with middle school and math for high school and beyond. And at the high school, more checking in on the de-leveling work, more checking in on the proficiency-based grading, additional conversations and discussion about dual enrollment, and looking at ways to both support enhanced rigor and cultural relevance simultaneously. And then the district level, more thinking around how we're best supporting or can best support English language learners. I had a great meeting with CAPE, which is the parents group that supports the English language learners, and I'm going to continue to meet with them personally on a regular basis. More on the Stoke work, and the Kelsey, what you said or what you shared that the students wrote resonates, and we hear it, and we're recommitting to that. All right, so this before you shared that, so, no, I'm psychic. Some work or some sharing about Clio, or after-school program formerly known as Project Connection. Some work around our wellness work and how that's integrated and may shift some going forward. Some work and updates around student chronic absenteeism, which isn't only a Berkshire Hills thing, it's a nationwide thing, and it's constantly in the education press. And some work around staff absenteeism, and is that a symptom of, or what is that a symptom of, and how can we address that? So it's just sort of like a foreshadowing of where you're going, but I thought committing it to paper would be useful.
Could I make a suggestion on one of the topics?
Yeah, please.
The school committee received a letter from a student, Oliver Curtis.
Yeah.
And I found that letter really well thought out. Emotional in the sense that he is looking for the betterment of the school and of the students in it. And we have gotten away from this, but I was thinking that to check in on de-leveling, which his letter addressed specifically, it would be good to have a meet and confer, Steve, instead of just a meeting where we're taking votes. And we kind of gotten away from those meeting and confer, whatever they're called.
Yeah, that's.
And I was just thinking, as I was doing this other work, that this would be a good time to have a meeting, confer about what is going on at the high school in regards to this and the issues that it's raising for both students and teachers at the high school and for us, because I'm hearing more and more about frustration on both the student level and on the teacher level, especially as regards the humanities. And I'm not going to deviate from what the agenda is, but I will say that biology and teaching biology in the level that is being done is not teaching social studies. They are two different aspects. And as I said to my granddaughter, she's taking AP Chem. She doesn't write expository essays in AP Chem. She does labs, but in modern European history, there are expository essays and there's different skills. And so I think it would be good for us to devote a meeting to this, since when we went into this program, we devoted a meeting to it.
Yeah, no, I very much agree that another couple things. Christy and I were on a call today with folks from, or a person from the Bar Foundation, and she could speak to it more. We don't need to do it now, but there's all sorts of interesting things with students going out to Rhode Island with faculty to present at a conference, and then there's another conference, and then Christy and I are presenting on some of the work, and they're wonderful things going on, and they're really challenging things, and rainbows and unicorns and warts and all of it, and having some honest conversations about it, I think will be really productive.
Is there de-leveling before high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
When does it start?
It's unleveled until high school.
Yeah, I mean, with one exception, right? So
It says eighth grade math.
Eighth grade math is really the exception.
Okay. Because I'm thinking that maybe an earlier start would begin to make a difference. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's merit to that. We'll make some time dedicated to it and come up with I think a really thoughtful structure. And it may not be one meeting, or maybe three, right? And we need to.
My impetus for this is we kind of gotten away from that, I think, as a committee, and I personally enjoyed it because it was more of a.
I think you, me, and Steve are probably the only people who've ever participated in one.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% behind you. We should do them 4 times a year. Whether this is the issue, I think we need maybe an issue meeting that's run by Peter like normal. The part of the meeting confer is it's our meeting. It's not Peter's meeting.
Right.
It's not the public's meeting. It's our chance to sit around and talk.
Right.
And float ideas and set agendas for future meetings, you know? I'm not saying it couldn't be, but we need some information to come in too, you know? But either way, maybe we have a meeting for, that we decide to, approach going forward on how we get the information.
And we might bring things to that meeting, or actually, my least favorite is for people to read things in a meeting, but we might put together a packet in advance of the
Right,
meeting. So we could look at what was our original proposal, a gaggle of letters, some reports and reviews, the whole bunch of things.
Well, I just thought his letter, which I think, I want to publicly thank him for writing it.
It cited unnamed sources though, and I hope that our social justice department is not teaching our students to rely on unnamed sources in any kind of advocacy writing.
Well, I think
Have we
actually,
moved past that since when you were in school?
I hope we haven't. I hope we haven't.
it just brought to me that a lot of thoughts and things that maybe I personally hadn't been aware of. And I just thought it would be good for this committee to have maybe a discussion, or as you said, two, about that issue.
But we will work on that. I think a lot of the issues on Peter's list, which is a great list, can be done at a meet and confer. Some of these would not take more than 15 minutes, and we could just relax, sit around, no votes, and just talk about certain issues. One could be on the high school, but there's a lot of here that would not take long to discuss, but could be done in fairly rapid fire and have a good discussion about each one.
Yeah, good. So hopefully that helps guide a little bit of our future work. And you've seen sort of other iterations, like I wanted to get us in a cycle of every so often we check in with each academic department over time. And hopefully we're getting to a place where we can be a little more proactive and a little less reactive, which will be good. So the next thing is a little update, and Jason, you could speak to it, or I could, about sort of where we are with the building committee and in the MSBA process. We had a neat meeting the other day.
Yeah, I'll start off and then you can hop in. Yeah, we had a great meeting earlier this week, right?
Yeah.
They're all running together.
All mixes.
Yeah, it's just one big meeting, literally.
You were there, I was over there.
Exactly. Really, Donna Danisco, who's president of the architect firm that we hired, ran it along with Sam from William Ron Associates, and did a great job updating the process going forward. And we're going to be, up until this point, we've kind of been spinning our wheels, but not gaining much traction. And now we're at the point where it's going to be, 100% full forward, crazy next 6 months, or up until this building project. So the big thing we got out of it is, she laid out a timeline going forward, and also, and I'll have Peter speak this, that we're breaking down into, I think 6 or 7 different subgroups that we're gonna ask people, committee members, as well as public, students, teachers, to be on specific areas looking at the new school. And Peter, I'll let you hop in if you want. Did you want to mention that? Or?
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. So the group decided there could be a number of working groups, and there'll likely be 1 or 2 building committee members on each of those, with the total number for all of them except the outreach one, which might be separate, of like 10 people. So I'm going to translate that into like an electronic survey monkey. With Donna did a really nice job of writing a couple sentences for describing each of the subgroups, and I'll do a community-wide call. I'll put it on our website. I'll send it to the media outlets, the Eagle the Edge, the newsletter, the local yokel and Stockbridge updates. And then people can express interest, and then out of that we'll pull together some groups. But things sort of as far-ranging and interesting as this, or the arts, music, library, a group around sustainability, site design. Bill's very excited about site design. A group about the exterior of the building and what that might look like.
Is there a group specific to determine the memorial to the 1990 Super Bowl team, or will that be part of the site? Or will it be its own subcommittee?
That'll be you.
Yeah, that's
Just you.
Well, Jason wouldn't be qualified to serve on that.
I never had the pleasure.
Do you have a ring somewhere?
I have a coat and I wear it if I could.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So that's good, and hopefully I get that. If it's not tomorrow, I'll get it out Monday, but I'll try to get it out.
Just for a word, I would urge school committee members who have a chance to either zoom in or attend the building committee meetings, if for no other reason, besides understanding what the process is, but to realize what a terrific team that's been put together with Skanska and William Danisco and William Ron together. If you don't come out of a couple of those meetings, out of one of those meetings, excited about this project, I'll be very surprised. And so I just do the best. I know it's tough to attend all these meetings, but this is one that's worth just even sitting home and listening to.
Yeah, and we'll share links to the documents that are generated. She always puts together a nice set of slides, and I neglected to record the last one because usually CTSB does, and I forgot to click the button, but going forward, I'll remind myself to do that. So
is one of the working groups going to address renovation versus?
that's an obligation of the whole process. That'll be considered across, I think, across all the groups.
So how this works is working groups report back to the building committee with recommendations. Don, I think, describes about 3, but as far as major decisions, that will be up to the building committee, and that will be what the architects will work on early on, you know, what the feasibility of doing a new, and Jason, you can do this better than me, new building, a renovation, or a combination. And that's an obligation, as Peter said, that the MSBA requires for us to look into all 3.
Yes, I would agree. And I would say, so the meetings are usually the last Wednesday of the month. We can have it there. So it's usually once a month. And previously, some of them might be interesting, some of them not so much if you're not on the inside, but going forward, every single one of these is gonna be really interesting, and it's once a month. So if you have the time, and there's Zoom too. So, you know, feel free to hop on. I think it's gonna be really exciting, a lot of great information out there, so.
And then they've also articulated a schedule for a whole host of visioning meetings that you can come to with whatever context you have, and just say, like, I really care about the arts, or I care about the football, whatever you care about.
It's not whatever, Peter.
The stadium celebration. So I think that's good. I think that's really it for me. Steve, I do have one question for you, just as we go to subcommittees. There's a superintendent's evaluation subcommittee on 3/7 at 5. We had a school committee meeting.
I'm way ahead of you. I've got this written down already.
Okay, good.
So this is a school committee decision. We'll do it right now. So we have meetings scheduled the 7th, 14th, and 21st. The 14th was listed as optional depending on the budget. 7th and 21st were our regular meetings. Do we want to eliminate the 14th? Or do we want to eliminate the 7th, since it's this next week? Do we want to have 2 or 1 meeting in March? Sometimes we'll go back off in March because the budget's been kind of long, there's been a lot going on. But we still have a lot to talk about, so I have no problem with 2 meetings. I'd rather not do 3. I think that's a little excessive. So whatever you would prefer.
Eliminate the 7th and keep the 14th.
If you don't mind having back-to-back, 14th and 21 is fine with me.
Either way, we're gonna have we're
Yeah.
gonna have back-to-back.
Well, not if we do
front
the
end.
7th and, well, yeah, we will.
We can just go to the 21st.
Or we could just do the 21st, eliminate the 7th and 14th.
Can one of them be this special meeting that we were just talking about, or is that?
I don't know that we might want a little more time to put together stuff so that people can then respond to that.
Can we decide on a time though soon that we can do?
Yeah, we will decide on that. I mean, our meeting schedule is already set for April and May. It'll be on the date of one of our regular meetings. At one point, we used to meet and confer. I think the last Thursday was always a meet and confer. The first one was regular. So
I think tentatively the 21st could be the meet and confer.
March
but-
21st?
Yeah, because that gives us about 3 weeks.
So you want to cancel the 7th, do business meeting on the 14th and meet on the 21st?
So,
Actually, sounds good.
yeah, it
Does that
does.
work? Okay, so let me just, I'll talk to Christie tomorrow about if we can pull enough together for the 21st, but it's 3 weeks, I think we pull a lot together.
Yeah, I think it's important we do it right.
Yeah.
So the 21st would be meet and confer, the 14th business meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
And the 7th is
7th,
no longer on the
seventh.
calendar.
The one thing I want to check that I don't have in front of me is, the folks from Railroad Street and the Youth Coalition were coming to present the data on the Prevention Needs Assessment Survey. And I just, that in and of itself is a whole meeting. I think, so I want to make sure, I don't want to promise that we'll do the leveling up or de-leveling conversation on the 21st, if that's when we scheduled the.
Yeah, you're right, we did. You may be right on the 21st, so we'll figure it out. If not, it'll be the first meeting in April.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, and then maybe we'll come forward with like 2 more or 3 more meet and confers going into April and May.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that, I think that's it.
So moving on to subcommittee policy, our next meeting is March 12th. Buildings and grounds, Jason.
Yeah, we met the 15th. Number one topic was the town of Great Barrington is paving Minot Valley Road. So Steve is coordinating with Joe Aberdell, the head of the DPW there, about what we want to do regarding all the mud pits on either side of the road in front of the elementary school and the middle school, and which might be possible to pave and make parallel parking spots, which we can put no parking signs that will be good for all year round, even school events, etc. There are some places right close to the entrances, fire hydrants, other areas that are close, especially going south, on the right side, the rocks that people have been parking at. Once we put no parking signs up, police can ticket them at any point and we can call on them. So basically getting that in order and making it look more appealing without all the mud and dirt pits. So that's, we're still in negotiations, or Stephen, negotiation talks, but that hopefully will be done this next paving cycle.
And a neat thing, Steve, you'll remember, how many spots do we think we're gonna add through that?
No, I don't have that number, because
we're changing it again.
Possibly changing. Overall, it was like in the high 30s, but I think we're gonna get there. I think we're
maybe
probably
30 to 35 or something, or 30.
Yeah.
But 30 spots is a lot.
But it'll also be organized.
No,
Which is not anything we've ever
This is a
described
problem
before.
for us, to be honest.
Yeah. And then there's a discussion whether we have teachers part there, fill those spots earlier, I mean, there's a lot of endless possibilities what we can do as far as prioritizing that, but at least it'll look better to start with and be safer.
Yeah, safe is the big thing.
Exactly. Also regarding elementary school, the chillers finally going out to bid. That should be fixed over the summertime. The chiller is what AC. There's 2 parts of it, or 2 of them. One of them's out, so it's working fine. But to take the strain off the one that's working, and to God forbid the other one goes out, there'd be no AC, and it'd be just like the high school.
Open the windows.
Yeah. Let's see.
At least they all have windows.
Yeah. True, the library does. Both the elementary and middle school, the lights, are 20 years old now. Believe it or not, so the technology is that they're all starting to fail. Technology's outdated, so we're looking into, the newer technology and new update with the lights there. The middle school, 2 of the heat pumps have failed, which is normal on how many we have. And so as they're failing, we're replacing those. All the parking lights, we've gotten some feedback, all 3 buildings, parking lots have been going, so we've been replacing them as they've been going out, and Steve's done a good job keeping up with
Jason,
that.
I just interrupted. A couple of people have asked me, the entrances to one of the 2 new schools said have been pretty dark. Is that because there's no lights there, or just those lights were out?
those lights are out.
Okay, so they'll be repaired. Okay, perfect. I thought there was a reason, because I remember there were lights there at one point.
Yeah, great. High school, we've got a significant increase in the facilities use request. Steve's report, a lot of outside groups have been asking again, it's finally picking up post-COVID, but again, that puts strain on the school, the use, so, making sure our fees are adequate to cover the costs. And parking lot lights, and that's all I have. Anybody else that can remember? It's been a few weeks, so that's about all I can remember.
The fees on those are set by policy, right?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes, policy.
so, yeah, I would love you to come back and make recommendations that where we go with that, because it's been years and years since we changed that policy.
It's good.
And I don't know that needs to be flat, I think we could cure it for different types of uses.
So they
Is it tiered?
Yeah.
But all the tiers would probably go up
Yes.
a good chunk, because I
Okay.
think it's been 10 to 15 years since that's been.
I think you're right.
And again, there's different, some of them, obviously anything student connected, like any athletics or, probably those are, but then there's community-based ones that we want to do, but then there's some like National Grid comes in, in these places, some that's really not connected to the community. For those, we want to make sure that it's worth our while for the wear and tear and the time that Steve puts in everything, that we, if they want to use it, then they're gonna have to pay for it, if it's not.
It shouldn't be just to cover our costs.
No, exactly.
It is for community groups and for
For
students.
those kinds
For,
of.
yes, for the ones that have
Yeah.
no direct link to the
Yeah,
community.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that.
And that's it for B and G.
Thanks.
Corey, superintendent's evaluation has
We've
not.
got a meeting next week.
Okay, perfect. Finance subcommittee?
We won't, we didn't meet between now and the last time, so.
Negotiation subcommittee, negotiations are kind of late, but finally starting. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, we have Peter said interest-based bargaining training, 3 hours on Tuesday, 3 hours on Wednesday. And then we'll come up with a calendar for the remainder of the year to hopefully finish this out before July 1st.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but we'll get to it. Yeah, we'll get to it. Personnel report?
So the personnel report's largely self-explanatory. I just want to recognize one retirement, Robin Del Grand. She's worked for us for years as a paraprofessional, and we all appreciate her and we'll miss her.
Thank you. Karen, you want to take us through the FY 24 quarter one and quarter two transfer report?
Sure, these are pretty typical size transfers, both in numbers and amounts of dollars for quarter one and quarter two. As I said, 4 of the quarter one are for school needs. And I said this before, that budgets, you just set a budget and the kids come in September, so things change in those few months. So it's pretty straightforward. Most of them are the first 2 are for instructional software. As some of the principals have talked about, fewer textbooks, more instructional online software. And then we have supplies for health and equipment maintenance. We're always keeping our musical instruments up to date. And then ELA and library supplies at the middle school. We had the wellness director this year in the contingency, and we moved that into a separate line.
Why was that? I thought that was the regular budget last year.
It was, no, it was in a grant last
Okay.
year, so we put it in contingency because we weren't sure whether it was going to be in the grant or in the operating budget. And then salary stipends, we needed less in the professional development, which is a contracted services line, and more in the stipends themselves. So that's what that last entry is for. Questions on quarter one?
And we're gonna take one vote, so you can do both of them at once.
And then these transfers, again, were for general operating, field trips to assemblies at the middle school. And I have to say, most of these transfers are all of, 1, 2, 3 out of these, 4 out of the 5 are at the middle school. And that is not a reflection on the middle school, other than how closely they manage their budget. The other schools tend to do it all at one time, whereas the middle school does it more on an ongoing basis. The only one that was not for the middle school, for their either texts or assemblies, was for, again, the instructional software in order to purchase hardware at special education, and that tends to be iPads for students.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the FY 24 quarter one and quarter two transfer reports.
Second. So I have a motion, I have a second discussion. Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, Bill? Aye. Jason? Aye. Bonnie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Bill? Yes. Diane?
Yes.
Lori?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
And I, it's unanimous. Thank you, Sharon. Any old or new business before the committee? Hearing none, any public comment? Yeah, stand right up.
One more thing,
Just
Kelsey
identify
Romano.
yourself for the secretary.
What?
Just identify yourself again.
Kelsey Romano, Monument Mountain Special Education, also co-building rep, something that based on the conversation you guys have just had, that we had discussed with several staff members, including my co-vice president and the president, was like having a better rapport with you all. And it sounds like in the past, maybe school committee members kind of did like pop-ins to the building so they could catch the general vibe. And something that we're thinking of, like making sure you knew that that was open to you. And then also making sure we were more mindful in doing our part in meeting you all. So that's why I've been trying to be more, instead of waiting until a moment of crisis to like get to know each other. So just know that those are discussions that are happening at the high school. And as co-building representative, I will take 50% of the blame if you come in and bother someone. It would be great. Thank you
So just from a historical percentage, for most years, until recently, it was discouraged for school committee members to pop in
Oh,
to
okay.
buildings.
I think it's still the pop-in.
Yeah, the pop-in is a little tough, it's disruptive, and it's really not encouraged, it's not meaning you can't go in the buildings, but it's just popping in. But I do agree with you that I'm glad you come to our meetings, I'm love to see more. When we have meet and confers, many times, people come to those, they feel more relaxed, and we can have more of a discussion. So, yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
So pop-ins are discouraged, but how about like setting up, like, as long as we plan it? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. to
Yeah,
go in
yes,
and
yes, it is.
going on.
And to be clear, not just by me, but
By the school committee is always, because it's disruptive.
Oh, yeah, pop-in for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
But if-
unless
yeah.
if you have familiarity, obviously, with someone, but even with that, but yeah.
That's different. Yeah, but no, if you call ahead and say, you know,
Right.
can I come in and observe this or talk to someone about that? Of course, that's really, although my early years, that was discouraged too, but that was.
Right, that's what I wanted to.
Yeah, not anymore. No, it's not by Peter. Peter, as a matter of fact, is one superintendent who's encouraged that if you want to talk to someone, talk to them.
I mean, I agree that it's, we have a responsibility not to overstep our grounds and to, you know, get too caught up in the weeds, but I think, you know, kind of a general overview every couple of years would be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think there's two parts of that. I think the other part of that is inviting, like at one point at meet and confers, we invited all new teachers to come and introduce themselves. Just so, because we're not gonna go and see all new teachers if they're in 3 buildings, but we kind of gotten away from that for a variety of reasons. I can blame COVID, I can blame our schedule, I can blame a lot of things, but there's some interesting things we can do to reciprocate and invite them to our meetings and have it more comfortable. The other thing that Rich has encouraged and that I think we'll eventually do is we always had our meetings at the buildings. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna never have them here, but I think there's a mixture that we can do. When I first joined the school committee, every meeting was at the library of the high school, period. That was it. And then when we built 2 buildings, I think I was the main person who said, no, we have 3 beautiful buildings, we need to move around. And then we've come back here for COVID. I think we have to do a little mixture of both.
Yeah.
So,
and along with that, and we started talking about this with the PTA, trying to bridge opportunities there too, right? So the high school really revolves around booster groups and groups that where parents support kids in doing things, and some affinity groups or special interest groups, but the elementary school is really the PTA. So I think we could do things to connect with the PTA or CAPE, the group, that I mentioned before, that there are a number of different groups we could do more with those.
The other thing that I'm trying to work on is that there has to be more communication, both from us to the schools, but from the schools to us. For instance, you should be getting the newsletters now, you should be. Some of us don't have people in school, I haven't for a long time, and you lose touch very easily. But there's other things, for instance, the 2 musicals. It'd be great if we got an invitation to them, not to not pay for them, but just so we know when they are. Because if you're not in the schools, you have no clue when they are. And, you know, I think it's a great way of going to the school and just seeing what's going on. So there's a lot of events in the school that previously, years ago, and I'm old and been here a long time, we would get invited to. I mean, at the beginning, to be honest, we used to get a season's pass to all sporting events. That we would not only be invited, we didn't have to pay. I'm not trying to get out of paying, but it was a nice gesture. But in the same respect, we used to have groups like the band used to come here and sell their citrus. That was great. That was terrific. It's good to see some members of the band, and we help support them. Because so there are a lot of things that can change with the communications both ways. Okay.
I'll work on some of those.
I think we can work on them too.
Yeah.
It could actually be a discussion at a meeting. Okay. Anyone else? By unanimous consent, we are adjourned.
Oh, actually, we missed one. Dan had a question.
Oh, I didn't see his hand.
Sorry, Dan, go ahead. Sorry, we didn't see you.
Yeah, I didn't see you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, and then Sarah after Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead, Dan.
Okay, hi everyone, Dan Nielsen from Monterey, parent of kid in the high school in 9th grade and in the middle school in 7th grade. Thank you so much for welcoming me into the conversation. I want to very clearly express gratitude and appreciation for the district, especially Miles and Peter, who met with a few parents a couple of weeks ago. We urged that the school welcome Bridge and Translate Gender in to support the affinity groups, and the school has done that. Also, as was mentioned earlier, Railroad Street, all 3 of those groups strongly supporting our kids, and I want to thank you for doing that. And early reports from the kids are good, and so we really appreciate your work on that. Great news that that we're welcoming Ms. Galdo Shapiro back into the building. And I would just urge that we keep those groups in place to support her work for the time being, to make sure she's got everything she needs. Clearly, this will be a lot to work on. I want to so it feels like a little bit of closure on the December 8th police incident, and I want to make sure that we take a step back and see the big picture. As has been said many times since then, including the message that Ms. Romano passed along from students in the high school, that the bias incidents at the school didn't begin on that day and have a much longer history than that. And so we're closing the door a little bit. And I want to urge that we not let that be the end of the district's work on bias and inclusion around gender and around race. I want to make sure the district is aware of the death in Oklahoma of a student, Next Benedict, high school student there, who was bullied for a long time, was attacked in a bathroom, and died the next day who died the next day. I want you to know that when there are parents in your offices talking about bathrooms, that is what is going through our minds. And I'd like to keep that, keep inclusion and safety in our schools in front and center. A specific ask going forward right now, I want to make sure that the district is aware of the Spirit program, which is a program that Bridge ran in Central Berkshire a few years ago. It would involve the entire school community. We would suggest it at Du Bois, and something that could bring all the stakeholders together to work together. Student-led program, but everyone could have a voice. and work together as a community to help make the school a safer place. It will be at no cost to the school or to the district. And we think it would be a great way for the district to continue to work on these issues of inclusion going forward. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thanks, Sam. Just one point. I forgot to say something. The proclamation that Miles showed was partially from Bridge and partially from the W.B. Du Bois Legacy Committee in Great Barrington, and was presented, although I'm not sure who it was presented to, but it was presented during W.B. Du Bois Week. And that's was the impetus for that. So just for a little background, I forgot to say that. Sarah, go ahead.
Sorry, let me.
Yeah, just unmute yourself, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
Just state your name and address for the record.
Hi, yes. Steve, you actually beat me to it. I was just going to offer a little bit of context for the citation from Senator Mark's office and for the full sort of the delegates who came to the Du Bois Day celebration in Great Barrington. You can hear that CTSB did capture all of that. Unfortunately, we did not, have representatives from the school there that day, but we're glad that it made it where it's going. Another citation went to the town. And just wanted to sort of emphasize that, yes, this is a citation for the name change, which I think is actually a moment that we can reference back to, because that was a time of a lot of community engagement. Bridge, Railroad Street, there were many parents, many students, many alums, many members of the community coming together to have some difficult conversations and to really kind of hear what was happening and how meaningful it is for students of color in particular to really know the history of Great Barrington and have that name Du Bois on the wall and really mean something. And so I will also reiterate just a call for spirit as a way to kind of bring people together to have the tough conversations and move forward in really meaningful ways for students and staff, safety and belonging, sense of belonging in the schools. So just excitement about the citation and excitement about taking steps forward.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Then we are adjourned by unanimous consent. Thank you very much.